You say Mowrator, I say Mowrator. However it's said, let's take a look at it. When you open up the box, there's a quick start guide on top of what is a very big mower. This thing is huge, weighs quite a bit too. I'll get to that later, but first we need to do some assembly. Taking the battery out of the mower to charge it up this first time while I assemble the rest of the mower, put the wheels on and get the catcher ready. And we are at 3/4 charge at the moment. The charger is 600 watts. It's a beast of a thing, and it is metal. It's got a fan in it, a bit of plastic there on the top, but the sides and the base are all metal, which is nice. And the battery itself, what a beast. 56 volts, 18 amp hours. 18 amp hour runtime on this thing. That's awesome. And it is a solid, well-made looking thing. Everything about this thing so far, build quality wise, is really good. As you can see, unlike robot mowers, this mower uses a real blade. This is a 21-inch diameter blade. We are not messing around on this thing. Look how much articulation there is on those front two wheels. There's some good suspension going on there. This should be fun to go over some rough terrain with. The 4 tires or wheels are super solid. These are like giant rubber. They are beefy. Good solid things. Everything about this mower so far looks nice and solid. This thing is nothing like a robot mower. It's a remote control mower, weighs around 65 kgs with the battery and the catcher and everything on it, but it is built to last. I haven't seen a lawnmower built this good for a long time. There is very little plastic on it. Even these, they may look plastic. These are all steel hubs, which on today's temperature are freezing. It is just super well built. I'm really surprised. And this is all sponge, this big bumper on the front. This is a lot of expensive parts on this thing. They haven't skimped, which is super nice to see. Around the sides as well, you can see there's a lot of sensors for stopping running things over. Our battery goes on the top, but we'll show you that later. And there is some emergency stop buttons there and some lights, but we still need to finish getting these wheels on. In an emergency, there is a safety switch on each side of the mower. Hit that, the thing will stop, and as you see, red lights come on to tell you that the safety is engaged. Turn it back off, and it will reset itself just like that. I'm just going to set it on cruise control, and then I'm going to show you it driving into me. Automatically stopped before it hit me. Red light because I'm too close. Move away, and she comes right again. That did that by itself. I pushed the auto turn button, and that's what it does. This is on the highest speed. But before you put your mower away, you're going to need to clean out whatever's underneath here, which is a lot of grass. So the way to do that, we need to hook a hose onto here. Next, turn on our water. And with the water running, we start up our mower. So this is just a bit of a drag race to see who's quickest between the Mowrator and the Yuka from Mammotion. 3, 2, 1, go! Now both mowers are on their top speed, but the top speed of the Mowrator is double that of the Yuka. Okay, first test done. We're now going to do a cut test with both mowers on their lowest cut setting, and we are going to drive them and just see how wide each one cuts and see how well each one cuts. So let's go. Well, you saw how fast that was compared to the other one, and look at the mowing strip. Not only has it cut the grass much better, it's much wider. So we're talking about 8 inches versus 21 inches and considerably quicker. So you could mow this chunk of lawn here much faster with the Mowrator than you would with the Yuka. Leaves a much better finish, I can see, that's for sure. And if we had the catcher on, we wouldn't have to worry about these little clumps of grass either. But it moves pretty quick on top speed. I'm impressed. The mower has 5 different height settings. Now these lift and raise the whole base deck here. The outer structure doesn't move, but this bit drops and swings down like so. On the lowest setting, you're looking at about 32 millimeters, 1.3 inches, somewhere around there. And on the highest setting, it is over 4 inches. I think it's somewhere around the 130 millimeter mark. So that's good if you want to clear long grass first before dropping it down to do a nicer cut. And I think I may have said earlier that it's steel construction, but I think actually now that this frame is more likely to be aluminium, whereas that there's steel. And this framework here is aluminium. It just felt like it's steel because it's so damn heavy. Now they say not to use it in the rain. A light shower is okay. It's got IP54 written on the tool inside here, but they recommend not getting it wet basically. You can hose out the bottom of course, but try not to let it sit out in the rain. Even though it looks like it's got pretty good seals and everything around the battery area and stuff, I guess it pays not to take a chance. Alright, we've just stalled it. Blade motor stuck. That just cut out because I rammed a tree. The bumper triggered the sensor.
Blade starting. Please ensure.
Now I'm going to go through a heap of cabbage tree leaves, which if you live in New Zealand, you'll know these things are a real torture test for any mower. And a big torture test for this mower. Not too jammed up in there, they're not wrapped all around the spindle of the blade, thankfully, but was enough to cut it out, and of course they're jamming up the port going into the bag. I might just put the mulch port in now and give that a run, see how that works. So the catcher had a bit of a hard time with all this wet grass and mixed with all these cabbage tree leaves, which are horrible fibrous things. Not too bad, considering how evil those things are. I'm now going to bung in the mulch plug here. What that does is, as the grass gets cut, it spins around underneath, it can't get fired out the back, gets diced up into small bits and then just redistributed onto your lawn. See how she copes with that? If the blade jams up like this, you can just reset the sensor and then back the mower up. That way it will hopefully drive over the clump of grass that you've got jammed under there, and then you'll have a better chance of starting your blades back up again without having to turn this thing over. Like so. Got quite a good range on it, as long as you've got the sensors turned on. When you've got the sensors turned off, you have to stay pretty close to it for safety reasons. This is on top speed of 1.2 meters per second. Eyeballs optional accessory. It's now in cruise control mode as indicated by the blue lights, which basically means it will go in a straight line until you touch the right joystick, which will turn left or right. I can also do an automatic turn like this, and then it will come back the other way. And we'll do a turn the other direction. Are you ready for it? Not quite lining up with the right spots, but like I say, you can just tweak it like that. Does leave a few marks when the grass is as wet as it is at the moment. At the moment on this lawn, we are leaving marks just with our boots walking around here. It is very, very wet and muddy. Let's go try a sloped area. This is the steepest bank on this property, and I'm just going to go along the bottom first sideways, see how she goes. But we may get triggered with this tank here because we've got the sensors turned on at the moment. Let's see what happens. Yeah, see, the mower cut out then because this tank is too close. It's sensed it. It doesn't know whether it's a plastic tank or a human being or a child or a chicken. So it has cut out. So what I will do now is turn the ultrasonic sensor back off, and we should be able to start up and carry on mowing. Now I don't know what gradient that slope is, but it's quite steep, too steep to do the ride on when it's this wet, hence why it hasn't been done. This is now on cruise control. I'm just going to let it go, see how far it goes. It's driving by itself at the moment. I'm not touching the remote control, which I will explain to you in just one moment. I hope it stops. Hope it doesn't go straight through that bamboo at the end. That's a long way. Wow. I hope this remote's going to work when I have to stop this thing in a second. So I'm going to have to stop it right now. There we go, it worked. Now I'll set it on cruise control, coming straight back at us. Seems to go a lot further on cruise control than not on cruise control. In manual control, you need to stay a lot closer to the unit. Taking a look at the controller that we've been using to control this thing throughout the video, it's your pretty basic sort of forward and reverse on the joystick, left and right on that joystick. And then to start the blades, you've got buttons on the top here that you need to hold both of to start the blade. When you push them down, it will put a message on the screen there, start, click that with one of your other fingers, and the blade will start up. You need to keep your finger on one of these two switches once they have started the blade spinning, because else it will cut out. So you've got those two buttons there, just like your L1 and R1 on a PlayStation controller. Up the top here we have cruise control, we have auto turns left and right, and here we have clear buttons. So basically these will clear error codes. At the moment we have an error code at the bottom here, this orange one. I click on here, we can clear that, but the problem is I'm sitting too close to it and I am the one that's triggering that off. I'm triggering the sensors, just triggered a red one there, clear it, trigger it again, clear it. So that wouldn't normally be triggering so much if you're not leaning on the damn tool. So down the bottom we have some switches, obviously the power button, hold that for a couple of seconds, on it pops. This is the speed of the mower, this physical speed of it running across the ground, not the blade speed. So 3 different options there. And down here we have the blade speed. Once again, 3 different options from slow to fast. And then we have this button here which will automatically control the speed of your blade. So if you've got some nice thin grass, short grass, it'll cut slow. If it needs to ramp up the torque, then it will automatically do it if you have it in that smart mode. Emergency stop button there in the middle, USB port on the top there for charging it up. And that's basically all there is to the controls, but there is of course a bunch of settings on this thing. So you can have pin numbers and change languages and turn the voice prompts on and off and turn on the sensors. I have that turned off because it's a bit annoying for filming. You can turn the sensors on and off. Turning the sensors off means you have to stay closer to it, but it means you can get a lot closer to trees and other obstacles. That is the way I prefer to mow with it, because much more useful that way if you're getting close to anything. If you order one of these from the link down in the description, don't worry, you won't get the eyeballs on it. My wife put those on there just for a bit of amusement. Now it has struggled a little bit today with this really wet grass, It had a little bit of trouble firing it out the back into the bag, and even with the mulch plug on the really long stuff. Unfortunately, it's the middle of winter here and it's very, very wet, and some of the lawn here is just too wet to even mow at all because it's just leaving too many tracks no matter what sort of system you use. So unfortunately, I cannot test it with like long dry grass. It's only a lot of wet stuff. I've been really impressed with how good it's been on slopes. It can do much steeper slopes than I thought it would be able to do. It does stall every now and again on the long wet grass that I've been cutting, or with cabbage tree leaves and flax and stuff. But if you just drive it off that and clear the stuff underneath by driving it away, you can usually restart it. I have had to tip it up a couple of times and empty out the leaves and stuff that are jammed up underneath around the blade. But cutting through cabbage tree leaves will do that with pretty much every mower at some point or another. So it is very cool, very fun to play with. Very good for going around in between trees and stuff where you can't normally get to, or where it's annoying to try and get mower handles around and things like that. This is much shorter because you don't have a big handle on the back, and it's much lower, of course, because you don't have the handle sticking up. So good for getting into awkward spots. But it is a bit aggressive on the turning. Might not be so bad in the dry weather, but on the wet grass, it is just churning things up quite a lot. It's hard to turn gently and slowly with this thing. Certainly if you want to do a tight turn, it leaves marks. There are different tyre options available, I do believe, to try and alleviate such things. This is the 4-wheel drive model. There is also a 2-wheel drive model that just has smaller caster type wheels on the front. To update the firmware, you need to download the app onto your phone. Currently only available on Android phones. You can do that by scanning a QR code that is on the remote controller. You then download the app. Then once you've done that, plug your phone into the remote control via a USB-C cable, and then we should be able to update this thing. So we've got the mower turned on. Let's see what happens when we push upgrade. We are updating. Once this is updated, we should be able to do something pretty cool with it, and that is go in reverse. At the same speed, we can go forward. Let's see if this works. Forward and reverse. Yes! Oh, I wish I had that at the beginning of this video. It would have made life so much easier. So what this will allow you to do is mow backwards and then just tilt it on an angle and come back and forward without having to do a turn, which tears up your lawn. So very cool. Yes, much better. Plus there is a slew of other settings that have been added, so you can turn on individual sensors, tilt sensors, front bumper sensor and things like that. So nice improvement. Overall, once you get the hang of it, it is a very cool thing to use and means you can go into places you wouldn't normally be able to. And if it is wet, at least you don't have to walk on it with your boots. You can just drive this thing over the top of something. So very cool in that regard, and it's built like a tank, man. This thing is just so solid, but that of course does mean it's very heavy if you need to transport it, flip it over, lift it, stuff like that. But of course, if you are driving this into the back of a van or onto a ute or anything like that, you can just put a couple of ramps and just use the control and drive it up. Don't have to push it or anything, which is super cool. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hopefully we will get to test the auto dumper on the back. It does have a function where you can collect the grass in the catcher and then set it to just drive over somewhere and dump it. But unfortunately, I haven't got that catcher system with this one. Maybe in the future we'll be able to test that. Until then, I am going to drive off into the sunset, and happy mowing, everybody.